when he believed to be a genius but ended up badly. This is David Wright and Chris Phelps set on a drug deal with another two, recognized as Raul Cuadros and Brianna R. But what happened during the deal is going to shock you. The setup was carefully planned in order to carry out a heist from both sides. David successfully forced his targets into handing up their belongings, but their reaction was surprising. In a desperate attempt, they sprayed pepper spray on Chris before fleeing. Taking advantage of the situation, David quickly pulled a handgun concealed in his belt and fired a deadly shot into Raul Cuadros' chest, instantly killing him. But their expectations were dashed, however, when many security cameras in the area quickly recognized them, leaving little space for escape. David was arrested 2 days later, but he held to the foolish conviction that the authorities would never find him guilty. He relied on his perceived superior intelligence, believing it would protect him throughout the judicial processes. His optimism was crushed, however.
So you believe somebody that's going to tell you that somebody else did something to save their own ass?
Well, with all the additional evidence, yes.
I've been out of jail for all of a week and a half. I've spent almost every minute of it with my girlfriend. As for, did I plan to kill anybody? Did I kill anybody? No, I didn't.
As reality dealt him an unexpected blow. As the investigation progressed, the truth became brutally evident, showing the devastating evidence against him. David's arrogance had led him astray, and he was about to find out how mistaken he had been. Here is what the detective finds while interrogating David.
So, like I said, it's already been in the media. 4 people have been arrested. It's not like we don't know what happened to some extent, but there's always more that we don't know from every single party. So I would like to hear from you what happened.
Well, I have no clue because I'm just now hearing about this. So,
the whole, I don't know what you're talking about, is kind of out the door at this point. I got several people who have already identified you. You're identified on video. So it's not a question of that you were there. It's more a question of what led up to this. Because I don't think this is what was actually supposed to happen. Right? So you're just going to play that you have no idea what happened because you weren't there.
I was not.
The investigator interrogates him more to see whether he reveals the truth. David's defense strategy was based on a shaky justification, implying that someone else had his phone and engaged in the drug sale on his behalf.
So when I look at the GPS on your phone, it's not going to tell me that, it's going to tell me that you were with your girlfriend the whole time, that you never were. We're over at Jack in the Box.
It should. Or maybe somebody else had my phone. It's been known to happen. Quite often, actually. My phone has been, I left it in one person's car, and it took me a day and a half to get it back. And then I let somebody use my phone. They were supposed to just go to 7-Eleven to go meet somebody that were selling something to on OfferUp. And they had apparently 7 or 8 things that they had to do between then and when they got back to the house.
So what day was that?
I don't remember.
And who was that?
That was the guy that goes by Memphis.
To back up this allegation, he said that his fuzzy recall of the particular day made it hard to confirm or reject his involvement directly. However, for this scenario to be credible, the unknown someone in possession of David's phone would have to precisely match David's look, have free access to his Facebook account, and, astoundingly, modify their own skin tone, according to David's own description.
So what day was that?
I don't remember. That was the guy that goes by Memphis. It's a nickname. I think his first name's Joe. Black guy.
David's only current alibi and defense is that maybe somebody else had his phone and was at the drug deal instead. He also backs up his story by saying he doesn't remember exactly which day everything occurred on, something that can't directly be proven or disproven. However, for this to be true, that person with his phone would also have to dress exactly the same as David, have access to his Facebook account, and according to his own description of the perp, change the color of his skin. It's not looking too likely.
His argument is hanging by a thread as a result of such a complicated mix of circumstances. Another investigator approaches him to try to reveal the truth by informing him that the other 3 have been arrested, but the detective has no idea how he's attempting to game with them. David remains silent through most of the interrogation, but he didn't know that he was just turning things bad for him, and there was a moment coming for him where he would end up.
The only person I know you have under arrest is Chris.
Okay. We have Cody under arrest? And we have Tannehill, what's his name, Ray?
Ray.
He's in custody as well. They're all under arrest. Chris is under arrest because we viewed messages on the phones.
The detective talks to David further and even asks about what he could have done if he was the cop, to which David replies he has not done any shots and is not worried about getting into trouble. The detective again tells him that they have Cody's phone and all the evidence is against him. David reluctantly admits that he met with Cody, but he adamantly maintains that their interaction did not progress beyond that point. While this disclosure may initially appear inconsequential, savvy detectives recognize the significance of this breakthrough. They realize that they can leverage this newfound knowledge as a tactic to exploit David's vulnerability. Understanding his susceptibility to their approach, they methodically employ various techniques to elicit the truth from him. Despite the detectives' previous efforts, little progress has been made in persuading David to reveal the truth. The approach of cornering him with evidence or calmly discussing the events of the night proves ineffective, as David remains steadfast in his denial. Recognizing the need for a different strategy, the detectives make a drastic shift in their approach. They abandon their previous methods and instead adopt a more aggressive stance, resorting to sternly warning David about the severe consequences of his actions. The detectives, despite the challenges they faced, persisted with their patient and methodical approach in interrogating David, holding on to any hope for any potential breakthroughs. And finally, their perseverance paid off as a crucial moment unfolded. With David blatantly caught in a lie, his discomfort becomes more palpable. Though it may not have been apparent before, his obsession with protecting his own ego becomes increasingly evident. As his facade crumbles, he finds himself on the defensive, with the weight of his deceit bearing down upon him. The detectives seize this opportunity to intensify their pressure, knowing that they must keep pushing in order to elicit further movement from David. With each probing question and persistent line of inquiry, they aim to chip away at his defenses, gradually eroding his resistance. David begins to show indications of stress and discomfort after an hour in the questioning room. His anxiousness causes his hands to make small, restless motions as he transfers his hand from his lap to fix his hat. The stress of the circumstance has harmed his ego, damaging his formerly unshakable confidence. When he tries to talk, his words get garbled, and he stutters, straining to keep his cool. Here is where David actually falls out of his game. David declined to say anything further after making the decision to keep silent. He chose to suppress his once impressive mastery of the language, thereby closing any potential options for defense or collaboration with the investigators. Unsurprisingly, his unwillingness to cooperate harmed him during his legal procedures. David found himself facing the toughest possible penalty after making no effort to defend himself or give any information. The odds were stacked against him because of his significant criminal background, which included earlier convictions for arson, burglary, car theft, and several other offenses. David Wright was sentenced to 40 years in jail with no opportunity for release.